Have you ever felt trapped by the way the world sees you? This is the story of a young woman who endured ridicule, judgment, and self-doubt, simply for being different. But what happened next will show you the incredible power of courage, discipline, and self-belief. Watch as she transforms her life, not just her body, but her confidence, her mindset, and her entire world. Every mirror had become a battlefield for Emma. She avoided them when she could, but sometimes she couldn't escape the reflection staring back. A girl whose body felt like a cage, whose every curve had been dissected by the judgmental eyes of strangers. At school, in cafes, on crowded streets, whispers, stares, and snickers followed her like shadows she could never shake. She had tried to laugh it off once, joking along with classmates who pointed, thinking humor could shield her from pain. But each chuckle, each sideways glance, carved deeper scars. Inside, she felt small, invisible, unworthy, as if the world had drawn the lines of what she could be, and she had already failed to fit inside them. Home offered no real refuge. The walls were silent witnesses to her self-loathing, her quiet tears in front of the mirror, and the endless hours scrolling through perfect images online, wondering why she didn't belong in those worlds. Her mother's sighs, though unspoken, carried a weight of disappointment she didn't know how to bear. Friends drifted away, invitations stopped coming, and the voice inside her, the one that once dreamed freely, had grown timid, almost afraid to speak. Yet, even in the depths of shame, a small ember remained. It was nearly invisible, flickering against the storm of doubt. A stubborn whisper in her heart. There has to be more than this. I deserve more. Little did Emma know that ember, tiny, fragile, but alive, was about to ignite. It would take courage she didn't yet know she had, relentless effort, and countless failures along the way. But it would lead her to a truth she had never dared imagine. Transformation isn't just about the body. It's about reclaiming the life you've always deserved. The turning point came on a day that seemed ordinary, yet nothing would ever feel ordinary again. Emma was walking home from school, her backpack heavy, but not with books. It carried the invisible weight of every mocking comment, every sidelong glance, every cruel joke she'd endured over the years. She passed the park, where a group of teenagers laughed and played. One boy tripped on a swing and tumbled to the ground. Instinctively, everyone froze for a moment, then erupted into laughter. Emma felt a pang, recognizing the same cruelty she faced daily, but something stirred differently in her that day. Later that evening, she sat on her bed scrolling through social media. Pictures of classmates, strangers, and influencers flashed across the screen. Fit bodies, perfect smiles, flawless lives. Normally, she would scroll past, heart sinking, feeling invisible. But this time, a comment from a stranger caught her eye. You are stronger than you think. Start small. Start now. It was simple, short, but it felt like someone had whispered directly into her soul. Emma's hands trembled as she closed her laptop. Could it really be that simple? She wondered. Could she start small? Could she start at all? The next morning, she stood in front of the mirror, studying her reflection. For the first time, she didn't just see her weight. She saw potential. She saw a girl who had endured more than she ever admitted and survived. She made a small promise, almost inaudible to herself. I will try. I will begin. Emma didn't know what begin truly meant yet. She didn't know how to navigate the gym, the diet plans, or the exercise routines she had read about online. But she knew she could take one step, even if it was tiny, even if it was shaky. That small ember inside her flared a little brighter, warming the cold corners of her heart. That day, she started with a simple walk around the block. 10 minutes at first, lungs burning, legs heavy. Passers-by glanced her way, some with curiosity, others indifferent. Emma felt every eye, but instead of shrinking, she held her head higher. Step by step, she discovered that the hardest part wasn't the weight she carried on her body. It was the fear she carried inside her. And yet, as she returned home, exhausted but alive, she realized something she hadn't allowed herself to hope before. Maybe, just maybe, this journey could change everything. The next morning, Emma woke with a mix of dread and determination. Her body ached from the previous day's walk, muscles screaming in protest, but the ember inside her refused to die out. She laced up worn sneakers and stepped outside, feeling the cool morning air brush her face. Each breath reminded her how heavy her past had been, and how fragilely, yet courageously, she was beginning to shed it. She started small, 10 minutes of walking, then 15, each step feeling like a victory. At first, she kept her distance from gyms and public exercise spaces, too conscious of every stare, every judgment. But she refused to retreat into the shadows again. At home, she rearranged her room into a small workout space, a yoga mat, resistance bands, and a playlist that made her heart race. The first week was brutal. Emma wobbled through squats, stumbled over stretches, and counted each minute of cardio as if it were an eternity. She kept a journal, jotting down every ache, every small achievement. And slowly, the pattern emerged. The pain faded into strength, the exhaustion into energy, the doubt into determination. Food, too, became a battlefield. She had lived in cycles of binging and hiding, comforted by sugar and salt, punished herself afterward with shame. Now, she experimented cautiously, colorful salads, grilled vegetables, lean proteins. Each healthy meal felt like a rebellion against her former life. Each choice a quiet assertion, I am worth caring for. There were setbacks. Days she skipped her workout. Nights she succumbed to old habits. Moments she stood in front of the mirror and felt nothing had changed. Those were the hardest. But Emma learned a crucial lesson. Transformation was not linear. It was a series of tiny battles, some lost, many won. The important thing was to rise after every fall. After a month, the first signs of change appeared. Her clothes fit differently, her energy surged, and strangers' whispers no longer pierced her the way they used to. But the most important change was internal. Emma started walking taller, speaking louder, laughing more freely. Each step, each choice, rebuilt her confidence from the inside out. By the second month, she joined a local fitness class, nervous, self-conscious, but unwilling to let fear dictate her life. And there, amid the encouragement of strangers, the rhythm of shared effort, and the music that made her heart beat faster, she discovered something she had long forgotten: joy. Not the fleeting happiness of indulgence, but the deep, sustaining joy of proving to herself that she could, against all odds, reclaim her life. Emma was still on her journey, far from the finish line, but each step carried her closer to the person she had always wanted to become. She realized that transformation was never about perfection. It was about courage, persistence, and the unshakable belief that she deserved a new story. By now, Emma's transformation was becoming visible. Her face had a new glow, her posture radiated quiet confidence, and her stride was no longer hesitant. The mirror still reflected the curves of her body, but she no longer saw a cage. She saw strength. The first time she walked into a crowded cafe after months of avoiding such spaces, whispers followed her. A pair of teenagers snickered as she passed, and a waiter's gaze lingered just a second too long. For a moment, old fears clawed at her chest. She remembered the girl who shrank in hallways, who had spent years hiding from judgment. But Emma breathed deeply, straightened her shoulders, and walked on, refusing to let the world define her worth. It wasn't just strangers she confronted. Family and friends who had once doubted her, who had tried to offer advice wrapped in subtle criticism, began to notice her change. Some were supportive, offering smiles and encouragement. Others remained skeptical, their words laced with doubt. Yet Emma learned to filter the noise. She realized that respect, acceptance, and love first had to come from within. Her daily routine grew disciplined yet joyful. Early mornings of walking, evening workouts, and careful meals became a rhythm she cherished rather than a punishment she endured. Slowly, the embers of self-doubt were replaced by confidence, and the whispers of shame were drowned out by the voice of determination. One afternoon, as she jogged through the park, a mother and daughter waved at her from the bench. The little girl's wide eyes and bright smile mirrored admiration Emma had rarely seen directed at herself. That fleeting moment, innocent and pure, reminded her why she had started: to reclaim her life, to feel proud in her own skin, to inspire herself and others simply by daring to persist. Emma still had far to go, but she was no longer invisible, not to herself and not to the world. Each step, each choice, each glance in the mirror was a testament to her courage. And as the sun dipped low, painting the sky with gold and rose. She felt something she had never allowed herself to feel before, truly alive, ready for whatever came next. Emma's life had shifted in ways she hadn't dared imagine. The reflection in the mirror was no longer a source of shame. It was proof of resilience. Her body was stronger, yes, but the transformation that mattered most was invisible. The confidence in her stance, the calm authority in her voice, the spark of self-belief that no judgment could extinguish. Her newfound energy carried into every corner of her life. Friends who had drifted away began to return, cautiously at first, then with warmth. They noticed her laughter, the lightness in her step, and the quiet power in the way she held herself. But it wasn't about proving anything to them. It was about living fully, authentically, unafraid of the world's scrutiny. One morning, she received a message from her school's alumni group. They were hosting a wellness and self-esteem event, and someone suggested she speak about her journey. Emma hesitated, heart pounding at the thought of standing before strangers and recounting her struggles. But the ember inside her, now a steady flame, reminded her how far she had come. She accepted. The day of the event, Emma stepped onto the stage, feeling the familiar rush of nerves. Rows of faces stared at her, curious, skeptical, some empathetic. She cleared her throat and began to speak, her voice steady. She told them about the years of ridicule, the loneliness, the self-doubt, and the countless tiny victories that had brought her here. She shared her discipline, her setbacks, and most importantly, the small choices that had ignited a life she once thought impossible. As she spoke, something remarkable happened. Faces softened, eyes glistened, and whispers of "me too" traveled across the room. People leaned forward, captivated by her honesty, her vulnerability, and her courage. Emma realized that her story wasn't just her own. It was a lifeline, a reminder to anyone who had ever felt invisible that transformation is possible. By the time she stepped off the stage, applause ringing in her ears, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. She hadn't just changed her body, she had changed her world. And in doing so, she had given hope to others who were still searching for their own spark. For the first time, Emma didn't feel like a girl fighting against the world. She felt like a woman who had reclaimed it, a living testament that courage, persistence, and self-belief could rewrite any story. Months had passed since Emma first took that shaky step around the block. The girl who had once hidden from the world behind oversized hoodies and silent tears had become a woman who walked with quiet confidence, unafraid of being seen. Her body had changed, yes, but more importantly, her spirit had grown resilient, her mind sharp, and her heart open. She often returned to the park where her journey had truly begun. The trees had grown taller, the flowers more vibrant, and the paths she once walked with doubt now felt like familiar allies. Children played freely, laughter filled the air, and Emma found herself smiling in a way that was unforced, genuine. This place had witnessed her first steps, her struggles, her triumphs, and it reminded her how far she had come. One afternoon, as she watched a group of teenagers jogging past, a small voice called out, "You're really strong." Emma turned to see a young girl, pausing mid-step, wide-eyed and hesitant, clearly inspired by her presence. Emma's chest swelled with emotion. She knelt slightly, offering a smile and a gentle nod, remembering all the times someone's words, even a stranger's, had sparked hope within her. Her life had become more than transformation. It had become purpose. She now led workshops on self-confidence and wellness, mentoring young women who felt trapped by the judgments of society. She spoke openly about her struggles, not to seek pity, but to light the path for others. Each story she shared, each tear shed and smile returned, became a testament. No one is defined by the world's cruel labels. Redemption, growth, and reinvention are always possible. As the sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the park in shades of amber and rose, Emma paused. She opened her journal, now thick with notes, reflections, and victories, both big and small. She wrote one simple line: "I am not who I was yesterday. I am who I choose to be today, strong, fearless, and free." For Emma, the journey had not ended with the loss, the ridicule, or the doubt. It had begun anew with every step she had dared to take, every choice she had made, and every moment she had decided to rise. She had reclaimed her life, And in doing so, she became living proof that no story is over until you say it is. No matter where you are in life, it's never too late to begin again. If Emma's journey inspired you, take that first step today, whether it's a small change, a new habit, or simply believing in yourself. Share this story with someone who needs hope. And remember, transformation starts the moment you decide to try.